Getting a late start here today.
Yeah, a little late. I see you're recording already.
Oh, you noticed. I thought I'd have you
Now,
there.
let me just remind you that you have to put on the Cascade screen.
Just did. Thank you, though. I
You got
appreciate
it.
that. Hey, how was your week?
Oh boy, it's been kind of uphill this week for me. Just I don't know. It's just one of those weeks. I kind of feel like it's the news. You're just
Sure.
focusing on the news and everything that's going on and all the negativity. It's kind of felt like a grind this week. But, so that's just perception, and perception becomes reality. In general, life is great. I can't deny it.
I got to tell you, since we signed off last Friday, I have had a great week. I remember telling you last week how in the fall we go to Patterson's Farms and we did it the last weekend. We did it on Sunday. I had the best weekend. It's been so beautiful out. It's beautiful out again today. I'm going to try to get out on a bike ride with my buddy Dan the fireman this afternoon. But
cool.
Yeah, last weekend, one of the best weekends I had all summer, and it's been a gorgeous, gorgeous summer. But I went, let's see, first it started out Friday night. Irby and I went to, what's the name of that place where they have a concert hall in, I'm not going to remember, Beechwood Ballroom, just remembered it. And we had some really terrible barbecue that they were advertising.
Terrible barbecue?
It's
like an oxymoron.
I know, it's hard to screw it up. They had an attitude like it was the best thing in the world. No, it was terrible, but we just felt like helping out the neighborhood. That place is struggling. They cannot have live acts right now. So it was a donation, helping out the neighborhood. So we decided the next day that we'd go for a bike ride at 10:30 in the morning, and starting at 10:30 in the morning, we would meet. Since he lives off on East 55th, that means for us to meet, he would come down 55th, I'd go down Woodland, and not a good neighborhood.
This is a terrible area.
It is a terrible area.
55th and Woodland.
I talked to him about that, and he goes, "Oh man, all the crackheads would be sleeping at 10:30 in the morning." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right."
Probably true. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going, and fortunately it's all downhill the whole way there. It's about 4 miles to get.
Yeah, I remember it clearly. Actually, it used to be part of my sales territory.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. It's really newly paved and everything, so it looks nice. It's a joy to ride down, but I am not welcome there for sure.
Yeah.
If it's later in the day,
very few people are welcome there.
It's true. I'm riding down there to go meet him, and I see this one pristine tennis shoe in the middle of the road, and I immediately started thinking, where's the body that goes with it? It didn't even have time to get scuffed up. So I figure a few hours prior to me getting there, someone got jacked right off the road, right out of his shoe.
Probably riding his bicycle like you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it did make me a little nervous, but we had a great time. So we went down to East 25th, and where did we go? We went to Town Hall first, had a couple beers like at 11:30 in the morning. And then we went to Citizens Pie and bought a pizza. Citizen Pie is always one of the top rated place in Cleveland for pizza, and we never had it before. So went there, and it did not disappoint. It was absolutely terrific. They hand make their own dough, so they always run out of dough at some point during the day. So fortunately, we got there early. And then we went to the East Bank of the Flats and met Dan and Janine down there at Dante's Inferno. And as I told you before, the East Bank of the Flats is just gorgeous now. It's beautiful. And didn't really think about COVID the whole day. So that was that. Then the next day, Lisa and I went out to Patterson's farm. We went and we got our corn stalks, the mums, a bunch of different kinds of pumpkins. And, we take our time and set everything out and plan the arrangements and all that. And it's kind of crowded, which is a little uncomfortable because you had to wear your mask. You're outside, but it's so crowded, you kind of got to wear your mask most of the time and stuff. So there was that definitely put a little damper on the usual vibe, our annual tradition. But then after that, on the way home, we did this before too, but we went to the restaurant Oak and Ember, and it's a barbecue place.
Oh,
And we had the best barbecue.
you were
It was so
redeemed with your barbecue.
exactly.
Nice.
So we just had a fantastic weekend, and then I had a really good week. I told you last week about how we just launched this marketing program to sell these workshops. And so the first thing is you put together a free webinar to bring people in and show them a lot of value about, in this
Right.
case, we're selling how to become a career coach, which
Mm-hmm.
I still think is just a fantastic thing to get into. And our first one, so we have 3 of these planned, with our third being Monday. So we've had 2. Our first one went as shaky as I expected. The presentation, the turnout was low. 2 people out of about 12 people that signed up.
Right.
And I expected that as well. You got to figure out how to do your reminder emails just right to make sure they come in, that they understand the value of it, the opportunity that they're getting, so you can do your sales pitch at the end of this free webinar, right?
Right.
Well, I could see the team was a little disappointed about that. So the next day, which was yesterday, we had our second one, and it went great. We had about 24 people to sign up, and about 21, and we had, I'd say, 14 people that actually showed, which is a good percentage for a free webinar. And that is special thanks to my marketing partner on that, Nancy Valent of NMV Strategies. She did a fantastic job with the email campaign on that. And the webinar, being the second time around, went way smoother.
Always does.
Got a
Yep.
lot of the kinks out of the way. Now they're so excited they want to do a fourth.
Oh,
So I think that's terrific. They got very excited about that. I did remind them, we want to get through this first month, our baseline month, put together our numbers so that we can try to double them. We can assess, stand back, get away from it, assess everything, and try to double all of our numbers, from prospect to attendees to conversions at the end of our premium workshop. So it was a roller coaster, a fun roller coaster that is uh, going over. It went up the hill, click, 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 and
yes.
then now we're going down the hill. It's a
Oh,
success.
that is so awesome. Hey,
Yeah, it truly.
congratulations on that, and
Thank you.
congratulations to your business associate as well. That
Yeah,
is so awesome. And
truly.
it's always great when you have something in front of you and you got that feeling of, oh my gosh, is this going to go well? And here you were at the front end, just being an encourager, and I don't get shaken up here. It's
Right.
not going to go well at the beginning. You coached them through that whole thing, and
Mhm.
look at the results. That is
It's
so awesome. And you've got everybody all enthusiastic now about this going
Thank
forward.
you, man. It's so encouraging. It's so fun, and it's great to just enjoy your career like this
Yeah.
and these
Yeah.
successes. And in fact, I
Well, and
have
that's
it.
what this whole thing is about, right? I
It
mean,
is. It
it's
is.
Juicy Works, right?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
it's all about that, enjoying your career and moving forward. And here you are at the same time helping others enjoying your career.
That's what we intend to do here. And I think we
How
do a pretty
awesome.
good job of it. In
I think
fact,
so
Merle,
too.
I have another client, my lean guy. He's
Mhm.
inquiring about doing the same thing. This is just the other day. We're having lunch at our favorite Mexican place, Nuevo Acapulco in North Olmsted, on Wednesday. I can't wait. And he was inquiring about doing the same thing, and I had to tell him. I said, we'll talk about it on Wednesday, but no, it's not for the faint of heart. It's a huge commitment. It's a huge monetary commitment and time commitment. And if you're going to do it halfway and say, oh, let's give it a shot, you're going to lose a lot of money and a lot of precious time. So you got to be in it. I mean, I got the system down. I know how to
Right,
do it.
right.
And that's why I love my clients. I don't want to see any of them waste money. So
Well,
we're
and
going
I
to do
like
it.
that coaching as well, because I know that this client is one that doesn't like to write and has
Exactly.
you do all the writing. But this is going to take some writing on his part here.
I will.
He's going to have to buck up on that end.
Hmm.
But getting him prepared for what's ahead is pretty important. And I think that's part of the success formula.
But I will say this about him. You're right about the writing thing. And thank you for remembering that. You actually really take active participation in the things that I say. But to his credit, he's listened to some of my advice over the years, such as joining Toastmasters. He did.
Oh, he did.
And man, Toastmasters can improve your presence in mere months. And a month.
I know that was a life changer for you.
It truly was. He also took me up on the challenge of doing the daily videos so that he can get better at it. We're working on.
He's done that.
He is actively doing that.
That is fantastic.
He gave me a recent 3-minute video that I critiqued, and he's taken that to heart and redoing it. And I'll just say in a nutshell, what he was doing was largely, here's what I do. I'm Steve Reisig, and I do this, and I've done this in the past. These are my credentials. And I said, and I'm sharing this to hopefully help others out there. Don't talk so much about yourself. Only fill it in where you got to add credibility. Talk to the audience, what they are missing, what they need, and how you can help them and change their lives and improve it, how they're going to be the hero of their own story. Remember, everyone is always looking to have one question answered at all times, and that is, what's in it for me?
The whiff 'em.
That's it. That's all they care about. Yep. So that is about the extent of my O5O part, where we talk about careers and stuff. We got so much more, but
I want to add a couple of things here. Over this past week, a couple of events happened in my life. Of course, my daughter, it was her birthday on Friday. We just celebrated her birthday last night over at my house, which was really fun. She's 27 now, and had my son here as well, Brandon and Hallie. It was her birthday. So yeah, I was, I had to tell him, look, I got this show coming up at 6:30. You guys got to leave here. It's 11 o'clock. So it's still a couple minutes late for the show, but happy birthday to Hallie, and a tribute to a great man, their grandfather, actually it's their great grandfather, actually. It's on my ex-wife's side, William Allen. He turned 100 this week.
Whoa.
He is a former, he's a veteran of World War II. He was on Okinawa. He's a man of integrity. I remember when my father passed away, he stood in the gap and told me, look, I'll never take the place of your father, but if you ever need anything, come to me. I'll never forget him for that. And even though, my first marriage ended in divorce, he and I remained friends, and he's just a great guy. So happy birthday, Bill Allen, 100 years old on the 22nd this month. Can you imagine 100 years old?
I'm not going to make it to 100.
Yeah, well, don't say that. You never, if you want to make it to 100 and be healthy and have your mind intact and lots of money in the bank. That's you get those things going. I think you wouldn't mind being 100.
I'll tell you what, Merle, with all the changes that have happened in the last 20 years, 30 years in our lifetime, we cannot imagine what this world is going to be like another 45 years from now.
Boy, I sure do agree with that. And just look at our own lifetimes. I mean, here we are and we're in our 50s, and this world we live in now is unrecognizable compared to
when we were in college
or when we were kids. Exactly.
When we were in college preparing for this, our careers, I could not possibly be prepared. I was in graphic design, putting the type on a board with a burnisher and using markers to do mock-ups and layouts and Xeroxes. As soon as I got out of college, there was the Mac. As soon as I got out, and I had to learn boom right away. And I had terrible computer phobia.
Yeah, and I remember also avoiding typing, and there was a typing class that I took in high school. I think it was a senior in high school.
I never did,
and I dropped out of it because I thought, I'm never going to become a secretary. That's what I thought, and this thing is for the birds. And
well, didn't you also think once the computer came around, everyone told you that you wouldn't be typing in 5 years? Everything's going to be voice activated. And
I remember
not going to be typing.
Yes.
Keyboard, it's not going to be around. we're still using a keyboard.
Boy, I tell you what, that was such a hard thing to learn. What a terrible mistake that was. I'm still a 2-finger typer. I'm not the home key typer, but man, I can fly on the keyboard now.
I can too. Never took any classes. I think I use about 4 fingers, I think.
Yeah.
I do a lot of writing, a lot of typing,
Right.
I should say. So
Yeah.
it gets to become natural. I wanted to say when you brought up your kids that I saw that Brandon reached out for a friend request on Facebook, which I obviously don't pay a lot of attention to, but I saw it. I think I friended you back, if I recall. But anyways, I want to say thank you for that. That I surprised that we weren't already connected, but I'm really happy that we are now. So thank you very much, Brandon. And when is his birthday?
His birthday is on March 6th, and he'll be
okay. So
29. And it happens
29.
to be the same birthday as my mom.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. My birthday was the same as my grandmother's.
Oh, how cool is that?
So wild. A 1 in 365 chance of that happening.
Yeah. How about that? And what a great birthday present that she received, a grandson.
Yeah. Well, and even as strange as this is, she's truly my step grandmother.
Oh.
And that was so unusual. I had to explain to everybody that I had 3 grandparents because back then nobody got divorced.
No, and it was very unusual. How about that? Yeah. I remember I had a good friend and his parents were divorced, and it was sort of a taboo thing. And once again, another big change in our society is that, boy, that's pretty common.
Hey, Merle, while I'm thinking about this, before I move on, I wanted to mention that we had a beautiful shout out testimonial from a friend of the show. And I was hoping you could read it for us if you happen to have that in front of you. Do you by chance?
I don't.
I don't either.
This is my deer in the headlights.
Well, I'm going to talk about a couple of, if you could pull up over50startingover.com, it's right on the homepage, but it's just so nice. And he's been a friend of the show since the beginning. So I thought it'd be nice to bring that out because there's a couple quick things I wanted to talk about. In my local news here in Cleveland, I want to say that in the last week, apparently 3 black lives don't matter around here, as we've had 3 shootings, black on black crime, gun violence, gang violence, and it's unheard of. It's unprecedented. So I'm really dismayed about this movement of this whole supposed Black Lives Matter movement, which is a farce. And then you want to get all these riots and shootings going on and then say defund the police. This is insanity. It's absolutely insanity. And I love the Heights. My soul is here. And this really, really bothers me. It's very personal for me. So we definitely have a problem with illegal guns. And by the way, I just remember thinking about this here, that DeWine has some legislation that he's trying to pass about strengthening laws on illegal guns. Because when you get the left talking about the whole Second Amendment thing, all they want to do is make guns illegal. They want to take guns away from people that need to protect themselves, and not to mention farmers and ranchers out there that actually truly need them for survival. That's the guns they want to take away. Well, DeWine is actually just talking about toughening up laws on illegal guns, which are the problem nationwide. So I'm all about that. Here's a different news item that I heard this morning. As I always do when I'm waking up, I got my coffee, I'm laying in bed, and I got the local news on my laptop next to me. And I kind of pricked my ears up and went, what? So a kid got suspended doing virtual classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Zoom.
Yep.
He had a BB gun in the background, and he got suspended for that, a BB gun at his home.
Yes.
And so his parents are fighting it. And I was like, wow, that they said, well, this is an extension of school, and with school shootings and stuff, that is just a big no-no. And I don't know what to think about that. What do you think about that?
I think it's ridiculous. First off, he's not even in the school. So how could it be a threat especially if it's in the background? I mean, he's not brandishing a weapon and saying, I'm going to come and get you, Charlie Brown. He's got it in the background. So you're going to suspend a kid for having first off, a BB gun's not illegal. none of this makes any sense. This sounds like an ideology taken to its furthest extreme. It's extremist.
It is. It truly is. I think it was last week too. We were once again talking about these riots going on. The extreme. You got me there with the extremist comment, and we were talking about how are these people not being charged with hate crimes, and even this movement being branded as a terrorist organization. And I am once again referring to the Black Lives Matters movement.
I tell you what, Barry, I am disgusted by what I see out there in the news almost every day regarding this Black Lives Matter movement. And I can't understand why there seems to be nothing that we can do about it. It's organized, it's funded. Why don't we know who's actually funding this? That seems to be a problem. We keep hearing the name George Soros. We know George Soros is a country destroyer. That's what he does for profit. We know that he's all over this. We're seeing what happened in Louisville this week, where a truck pulls up with all kinds of supplies, shields, water bottles. We know the water bottles are used to launch at police officers. We saw, all kinds of different signs that were in there. And then we found out that the person that drove the van, it was a U-Haul, was completely associated with George Soros. We know that this person, George Soros, is actually funding campaigns for district attorneys in several cities, one of them being, several of them, Philadelphia, San Francisco. We're seeing where Portland, we're seeing where criminals are being let go back out on the street after they're trying to burn down buildings or rioting. And this is completely all attached to the same people that are funding this. Black Lives Matter is destroying the fabric of this country. And I just go back to the whole Louisville thing, and it's just caused this whole environment where it doesn't matter what happens. We're just going to burn it down. We're going to burn down our city. And it's a shame what I'm seeing happening in the name of what should be a noble thing, which is to affect racism. And is there racism? Noble. Is there racism? Sure, there's racism. We don't have systemic racism here in this country. When you look at Louisville and you call that systemic racism, what the heck? A grand jury came out and said that we're going to indict one of these officers in the involvement of what happened with Breanna Taylor. And when you come back and say that was wrong not to indict all of them, or at least indict one of them for murder, and you understand how the decision was made by a grand jury, a jury of your peers. It wasn't the district attorney. It wasn't the attorney general. It wasn't politicians that made this case. It was a jury of the peers of Breanna Taylor, and they heard the evidence from only the prosecution of these police officers. That's what a grand jury does. They never hear defense evidence. That doesn't happen in a grand jury. The only evidence that ever gets presented is the prosecution. Here's why these guys are guilty. And a jury of Breanna Taylor's peers decided that, no, we're going to indict this one officer, and it's for endangerment. And to come out and say this is systemic racism and try to burn the town down is a complete deception of what actually happened. And this group is involved in deceiving the country, and it has nothing to do with Black lives or any lives. It has everything to do with taking over and destroying what we've built up here in this country, which is based in freedom and justice. And we're seeing a lawless situation taking effect, and it's going to have a big impact on this election. I think that as we take a look at this election coming up, I'm concerned about what's going to happen, but it seems to be that we have a choice. And the choice is, are we going to support law and justice, or are we going to fundamentally change this country into something we've never seen before?
Something we don't want to see. If you gotten educated on this movement in the slightest, oh, by the way, who was it? It's in my notes somewhere. Someone famous, like not Charles Barkley, Herschel Walker
He's
has
awesome.
yeah, he's come out and he said, "Is this who you're supporting?" Herschel Walker slams the BLM movement after learning founders describe themselves as trained Marxists and challenges NFL teams to disown the movement. That's powerful. That's very powerful.
It is powerful.
It's because it's despicable that an organization like the NFL or the NBA, which is very African American driven, I don't like that term, black driven. So that's almost another story. No, it's not. It's despicable that these people are allowing themselves to be deceived and to be part of it, to propagate the deception. And NFL, I love NFL football, but I am just disgusted that they are propagating this whole deceptive and destructive, murderous movement.
I agree with you. In fact, to the point where I have boycotted the NFL. I boycotted them a long time ago when they first started taking a knee under Colin Kaepernick, and then they stopped doing it, and I started, back dabbling and watching the games again. But it was never the same. It was sort of like when the Browns left. It was never. It kind of took away that first love that I had. But then it was never the same after that. But now that they've gone back into it 100%, I can't watch it. I can't support that kind of, as much as I love football, it's my favorite sport.
Yes,
I can't support it. I cannot support it. And I can't watch even Major League Baseball, the NBA. I can't watch it anymore. They're into brainwashing. They're trying to brainwash us is what they're trying to do. And now they've figured out a way to infiltrate our sports. I'll never forget a big turning point for me with the NFL, and I'm trying to remember which Super Bowl this was, but it was when Obama was the president, and he came out and made a big deal on television right before the Super Bowl, a few days, talking about if he had a son, he would not let his son play football. And I remember thinking, oh my God, they're gonna ruin my favorite game. And they have.
Hey, for 3 weeks now, we've been saying that we're going to have this certain discussion. Are you ready to have it?
I am. And I also have this this quote up that you wanted me to look up.
Oh, yeah.
So let me do that first. This is from Tim Newman. And thank you, Tim, for weighing in and letting us know your thoughts here. So let me read it because I haven't read this yet. It says, I have watched since the beginning, and I now have my wife, Christina, asking if the next episode is ready. I don't agree with everything they talk about. What? But they do. But what they do is promote a conversation that allows you to see different sides. Their knowledge base is vast, and what they might not know, they can easily get on the fly. I love to hear about their life's ups and downs. I feel like I'm in the room listening to them banter back and forth. If you haven't been following, start. Well worth the time. Thank you for helping me become a smarter and better human being, Tim Newman. Wow.
Wow, huh?
That is outstanding.
Yeah.
I got to tell you.
It's humbling.
I got goosebumps. I got to tell you, I think my favorite part of that is actually when he says he doesn't agree with everything that we talk about.
Agreed. I thought the same thing. The fact that he's an avid listener and he doesn't agree with a lot of what we talk about, I think that's our goal here, and it always has been, is to have open conversations about this stuff.
Well, and I want to just correct something and say he didn't say he doesn't agree with a lot of what we talk about. He says he didn't agree with everything that we talk about.
Well, because we have a good wide spectrum because you and I don't agree on everything.
That's right.
So we have quite a spectrum.
It's the secret sauce of the show is that, and this is a goal of mine, and I know it is of yours, is that we here in America have so much parity where you cannot talk to your neighbor anymore because of various reasons, whether it's politics or it's COVID-19. We're afraid that we might infect somebody.
Yeah.
To me, it's the same thing. It's separating us so that we cannot have unity. We're the United States. That's what this movement. We just talked about Black Lives Matter. The whole object is to divide us, not to unite us. We are the United States, and we should be able to have conversations and agree to disagree on certain things, but still have a conversation about it, because look at what happens to Tim. He becomes enlightened when he's a part of these conversations. I become enlightened when I listen to differing opinions and what I have. And I'm very open to listening to the other side, as long as it makes logical sense, as long as it's based in what we can see as fact, not just what somebody says. And we still may end up agreeing to disagree, but that's the beautiful part about being in this America, this experiment, as Lincoln called it. And there is no other country like this. We can see where in other countries, if you have a disparate opinion, you'll be dragged away and never heard of again. That's been the history of the world. We've grown up in a place where it's different than that, but it's changing rapidly right beneath our feet. Before we go into the thing, I just wanted to say, I saw one of the most horrifying sights just this week, and it comes out of Logan, Ohio. You may have seen this video where this woman is at a football game, and it's an 8th grade football game.
I saw.
She's sitting in the stands. There's nobody within 20 feet of her. She's not wearing a mask. And a police officer comes and brutally takes her down and
tased her.
She resisted arrest. That was wrong. Even though what the police officer was doing was wrong, I think it was wrong. You shouldn't get arrested for not wearing a mask. Are you kidding me? But still, we should never resist arrest when it comes to police. We let our lawyer fight that out. But she resisted arrest, and he tased her, and everyone's just standing there, just not doing anything. No one's saying anything. That's a scary world right there that we're living in right now.
It is, but I see it differently than you. I just saw this morning on the news, probably right after that other thing I was telling you about. I just saw it this morning. And I thought, wow, well, there's the definition of a Karen for you. She voluntarily went into it was a high school football game, correct?
It was an 8th grade football game.
Okay. Well, knowing that in order to be able to even have these events during COVID, that they would do so under very strict guidelines, which she was not following. And it's a bad example for everybody. And when she was asked by authorities to put on a mask and she refused to do that and then resisted arrest, I think she was wrong in every regard. And hey, just like, what if she were black? What if she were a black woman and then got tased? How would everybody feel then? It would be a much bigger story.
I think it would be. The whole town would blow up. It'd be another Kenosha, actually.
Yes.
And the fact that it was a black police officer that was doing the tasing wouldn't matter.
We should go out and riot.
Doesn't matter.
Now.
But I gotta say, I didn't hear the part about the fact that she was warned, because you don't see that in the video.
Because I got out of it of course she was.
Well,
of course she was certainly just asked, please put your mask on. I think they said,
or are you
dude, do you really think they just ran over there and tased her?
That's what I saw. I didn't see her getting tased.
Then that is the same thing that they've done immediately. To propagate every aspect of this Black Lives Matter movement.
Do you know that?
Yes. They cut out everything but the 5 seconds and then say, okay, that's what happened. They talked about how she was asked to put on a mask. She was then asked to leave. She refused. They said it on the news report.
Okay. So if that's the case, I agree that, but still, you get arrested for that?
Sure. Absolutely. Dude, it's COVID. It's a pandemic going on. We are trying to create a safe environment for these kids to actually have some normalcy, and you got a Karen out there ruining it for everybody.
Just 20 feet away from everybody else, and you're going to
put handcuffs on her
and arrest her?
Sure.
Wait, is it the law?
Apparently. Yeah.
Now apparently isn't a good answer.
Well, what do you think during a pandemic, in order to get sports going for kids? It's a bad look. This is as bad as the adults at soccer games getting into fights at eighth grade soccer games. It's the same. It's what's happened to our society where we can't just cooperate and let kids have their day.
I
You know,
understand what you're saying about that, but there are certain things that are sacred. And one of those things is your individual rights. And that's it's sacred. Your body is sacred. And to have yourself become arrested over what amounts to an executive order, I don't know. This is a gray area, Barry.
I don't think it
Uh,
is. You
well, I
just
know you
said
don't
what
think so, but
amounts to
let
an
me just
executive
state
order.
an executive order is not the law, Barry.
Well, then what is it? Then it's nothing.
This is
It's
what's
not
scary about what's
enforceable.
happening right now
Yeah.
is that an executive order is just that. It's an order. It's not the law. The law is propagated by the legislature in every single state. The legislature is elected, duly elected by the citizens of that state. The governor can enact executive orders, but executive orders don't have the force of the law. In other words, you cannot arrest somebody for violating an executive order because it's actually not the law. The law is there's a very important piece called separation of powers here. And that's where we have a problem when governors who are in the executive office take on the role of the legislature, because now you're taking powers into that position that don't belong to that position. And we've talked about this a million times, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is where I see I understand what you're saying. There's a danger, but this should be enacted by your legislature to become an actual law. And there's a reason why it hasn't become a law right now. And so I think to arrest somebody over this, and by God, you're tasing a person over this, I think they've gone over the line.
I
We
still
may have
disagree.
to
I
agree to
absolutely
disagree.
disagree.
But
And that's
here's my
fine.
concern. Here's my concern, Barry, is if that is the case, then a governor can enact any law they want to. They can say, you know what? If you go outside, we're going to arrest you. If you try to go to work, we're going to arrest you. We're going to drag you away. This is our protection. These are our freedoms. We can't give that kind of power to an executive office. We need the protection of the legislature, which, by the way, is all about the people's will. This government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. If we have one person in there that can make these kinds of decisions, you can't be judge, jury, and executioner. That's what's going on with these governors. Maybe this is one of those areas where you think, you know what, that's justified. But if you give that kind of power to the governor, and then who knows what kind of law that they're going to put out there that's going to affect you. This is how other nations are different than us. This is why we're different than other nations. That gives them the power to put away anyone that they oppose. And that's a scary world that we don't want to live in.
I understand what you mean, but I'm
In
trying
this
trying
case,
not to laugh because we once again pushed our subject matter back to next week because we went down this rabbit hole. We're never going to get there. We still got a bunch of current event stuff to talk about. We could still talk about this more. I'm not going to agree with you because of the state.
I don't think you are, but I think that
Right.
if suddenly they came and said, look, all businesses like yours should be shut down, and if you try to open up a business like yours, we're going to come and take you away, you might have a different opinion, because that's
Totally
the
get
kind of
that.
power that we're giving to these governors, and
Right.
I think that's wrong.
I understand what you're saying. I truly do.
And that's actually happened with COVID-19, is they've decided which businesses are essential and which ones aren't, and they've ruined the lives of
Agreed.
thousands and thousands of people.
Agreed. But you can blame that on the government, but I blame it on the tragedy that is known as COVID. And by the way,
I don't.
there's a new vaccine that is hitting the stage 3 trials, which I have. Oh yeah, Johnson and Johnson enters phase 3 trial for single dose coronavirus vaccine, which means you only got to take it one time rather than going back to the doctor multiple times to keep boosting this thing up like some of these other ones. It's the fourth potential vaccine to go into a crucial third phase of testing. But it carries significant benefits. It requires a single jab. I don't like the way they say jab. It sounds
Yeah,
like
I don't like that either.
rather than the repeat visits to the doctor's multiple injections, and it stores more easily. Only requires refrigeration level of storage to keep it up to 3 months. So that's some really good news. So we got 4 of these in stage 3 trials, which makes me wonder, do you remember, this is weeks ago, like a month ago already, Russia was pushing out a vaccine right onto
Right.
their people with no human trials? I haven't heard. How's that going? You know anything about
I
that?
haven't heard either. No, I don't know anything about that, but it doesn't surprise me that we haven't heard anything about that because of the type of government that they have.
True.
And actually goes back to the last subject that we were talking about. But I personally am concerned about the vaccine, and I
Sure.
am very suspicious. To be honest with you, I don't like this, because what I think is going to happen is that there will be executive orders that say that I have to get a vaccination. And
Yeah.
much like the Russian thing, I don't want to be the first one taking that vaccination.
No,
I don't get flu shots, by the way.
I don't.
I don't want to introduce that into my body.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're putting in my body.
But then, how do you feel like
personally,
the vaccines that we were given as kids, you've given to your kids for polio and I don't know, plague or whatever? We get like mandated 3 different vaccines as children?
it depends on what state that you're in. Every
Oh.
state is a little bit different.
I didn't know
And yeah, because when I moved, or when my kids moved here to California, they had to get more vaccinations than they were required to have when they were in Ohio. This is where the concerning part is for me, is that who makes these decisions? How are they made? And what's actually inside of these things? And when you start taking a look at that, you start to learn some pretty ugly truths. And they could be putting anything inside of us. We don't know what they're actually putting inside of us.
Nanobots.
I agree that there are vaccinations that have been helpful, that we can prove have eradicated certain diseases that are out there. But this comes back to trusting the government, which I don't.
I don't either. I don't think anyone should. I think it's a healthy American way to actually be distrustful of the government.
Well, I think that what we're seeing here with this COVID-19 is we're seeing a new virus that has entered into our environment. And I do believe in the herd immunity, that if we're actually isolating ourselves from people, from different germs that are out there, our bodies are very miraculous. They can, when they're exposed to these things in different doses, it produces antibodies almost magically, miraculously. And that's how we actually become immune. But if we don't get exposed to these things, we actually put ourselves in a more risky situation to take on these types of viruses. So I think that this whole lockdown that we've had, even going back to the person that was at that football game, is actually doing more harm than good for us in general.
Okay.
And if we take a look at the statistics here on who's actually been getting sick and what the sickness is and who's actually the most vulnerable, I don't think this virus is anywhere near as bad as what the media has portrayed it to be.
Not to the common 94% of the population that, it's not really deadly to. I agree with that. But to use your rationale about the herd immunity and we would be fine if we just followed that, well then That's not the case with polio. Then why are we getting any of these vaccines? You know, so there are
It's a good question.
these diseases that we have very much eliminated, that have wiped out a third of our population in the past, that the vaccines have saved humanity. So
I think the vaccine should be given to people that have comorbidities, that are in the vulnerable class, and that's it. I don't see it as anything more than that. I think
that's not a bad thing to think about.
yeah, I think
that's reasonable.
I think the science and the statistics, these epidemiologists, that's what they look at, is they look at statistics on these types of things. I think the statistics have proven that out. But what we're seeing here is a complete change in our society, a lockdown in our society, where some woman at a football game gets tased in the middle of a game and she's not even near anybody. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm
not going to go back there again. We're beating a dead horse on it.
Well, I think it's the very crux of the problem here is that we've changed our society out from underneath of our feet because of fear, and that we have a mechanism here in this country that is a fear producer, and that these things are all related to each other, where we are
you get this noise
not unified anymore.
Are you hearing a noise?
No,
I am. Weird. Okay.
You know what it is? It's the sound of me being right.
That's funny. It stopped. It was like a computer thing. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know what it was.
That's
must
weird.
Have been
I didn't actually hear it.
The sound of you being right. That's funny. We got
hey, let's move on to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because I think that's a huge thing that's happened here. So last Friday, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And of course, she's a Supreme Court justice, which totally threw gasoline on this whole election process that we're looking at right here. And we know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was very much an activist judge that was leaned heavily to the left. And this is now a situation where there's a debate on whether or not the president should appoint a new Supreme Court justice. Of course, shortly after the announcement of her death happened, Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, of the Republican Party, the majority party of the Senate, who the Senate under the Constitution has the position of advice and counsel to the president regarding the Supreme Court appointee, said that he would indeed hold a vote for President Trump's appointee, and all hell broke out after that. All kinds of debate happened after that. I'm very interested in what your opinion is on this, Barry.
I did not read the details about it. When we get that far down the rabbit hole of politics, I honestly get bored. I'm more about like when it affects behavior and stuff. That's what really interests me. I am interested in you clarifying the debate over appointing someone before the election versus waiting until after.
Yeah, so back during the Obama administration, and this is where the big debate is coming from, there was an appointee, Merrick Garland, that Obama made during his last year of his presidency, and Mitch McConnell stood in the way of actually holding a vote saying, it's your last year, we're going to go ahead and wait until the next president is elected before we fill that seat. It was when Justice Scalia passed away. Now, that's what's actually coming up. And that's what people are saying. Wait a second, Mitch McConnell, you wouldn't appoint a Supreme Court justice in the last year of the presidency of Obama. And that was 9 months before he actually left office. Right. But yet you're going to appoint a Supreme Court justice under Trump. And this seems interesting because you're a Republican and he's a Republican. And, you know, so in other words, Republicans can put justices in, but Democrats can't. Nothing of the sort. What the whole point of argument actually is right there regarding the same parties or differing parties. So if you look back on history, 29 times this has come up where a Supreme Court justice seat had to be filled during the last year of the presidency. In all 29 cases, even under Obama, the president appointed a Supreme Court justice. So there's no question under precedent or the Constitution that the president has the authority and has in fact appointed a Supreme Court justice. The debate comes with, will the Senate actually hear and give the advice and counsel? And that's how you appoint a Supreme Court justice. So under this situation, you have the president who's a Republican, you have the majority in the Senate. They're the same party. Now, if you look back in history, every single time that it was the same party, 19 times, by the way, every single time it was the same party, the president appointed a Supreme Court justice and the Senate brought that to the Senate and actually appointed a Supreme Court justice every time. When the president was a different party than the majority in the Senate, that happened 9 times. 8 times out of 9 times, they didn't actually bring the appointee into the Senate. So now there was one time, and that happened in the late 1800s, that they did actually appoint a Supreme Court justice, but that's when they had a big deficit in the Supreme Court where there were several seats that needed to be filled. That was the only time. Now, if you look at the recordings, that's exactly what Mitch McConnell told Obama when this happened, that Mr. President, it's been over 100 years since we appointed a Supreme Court justice in the last year of the presidency when there were differing parties between the executive office and the Senate. And so this actually becomes a non-issue. And even if this were to go into the lame duck session, which is, let's say President Trump doesn't get elected and they still haven't appointed the Supreme Court justice, the Senate would still be responsible for appointing or passing through, or at least hearing the rest of the hearing, even if Trump doesn't get elected and they don't appoint that Supreme Court justice before the election. So it's all precedent. This is all normal, but yet there are pundits and politicians, that even Joe Biden pouring gasoline on this whole thing, saying this is unprecedented, which is 100% precedented.
Yeah, I know. It's just that it just figures 2020, like any more curveballs this year could throw at us, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a scary question to ask, because as soon as you ask, one of them comes.
Yeah.
What more could happen at this point?
And listen to this one. I saw this headline. It's from The Hill. Gallup poll, 61% support abolishing the Electoral College.
That's scary.
That is terrifying.
You know what that means to me is that people are just not educated on the value of the Electoral College.
Well, also, you could create a poll to skew whatever way you want by the way you word it and where you conduct that poll.
Well, that's absolutely the truth. And you know what, Barry, this brings up the point of these polls that we're seeing, where we see, oh, the election is very tight, and like Joe Biden is in the lead right now and on all the battleground states, but it is tight. And it's like, okay, that doesn't seem to make any sense to me, because wherever Trump goes, 1 billion people show up. Just like they're rowdy. I mean, they're like really enthusiastic, but wherever Joe Biden goes, no one shows up. And it's like, well, can this be right? I mean, I remember last time around, the polls were obviously wrong, but what we're actually hearing that the polls are being skewed because they're actually polling more Democrats than Republicans.
Sure. Of course they are. I'll tell you exactly what they're going to do too. Is they're continuing to do this to try to muster up enthusiasm and a positive team-like vibe for Biden. But I'll guarantee you, in the last couple weeks of this, they're going to be like, warning you what happened 4 years ago, and if you want Trump to get elected again, you better get out there and vote, because it's looking like it's going to be close. They're going to do that in the last couple weeks, I think.
you would think that this, because what I feel like is this is, if you're a Republican and you hear that, oh my gosh, Trump is behind in the polls, that actually produces more enthusiasm for the Republicans to get out and vote.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like their strategy is backwards here.
I think everything about their strategy has been backwards, right down to these Democratic governors and mayors encouraging the burning down of their towns. And then with the intent all along that they're going to turn it around on Trump. So, and which they've been actively trying to do. And I swear, man, people are not that dumb. I think that 40% of this population is pretty naive and not well educated on what is truly going on in the news. In other words, they watch mainstream media. They've always watched it. So they haven't seen how it's gradually and surely turned into this manipulative machine. They just buy into it because they've always trusted it. So there's a lot of that going on. But the more ridiculous things get, they're trickling out of there. It's like, come on, this is insane. And start asking questions like Herschel Walker coming out and saying, hey, I just found out that this is a whole Marxist movement. Did you guys realize that? Dude, it seems to me most people don't realize that yet.
You know, that's what's so crazy. And I mean, how do you not realize that? And then secondly, the thing that really gets me, Barry, is when somebody like Herschel Walker comes out and makes a statement like that, then he is lambasted in the media. And you have
I didn't know.
You'll have black pundits come on and say that somebody like Herschel Walker isn't really black. We saw this happen with the attorney general in Louisville, Kentucky, when the verdict came out from the grand jury. And I don't know if you actually saw that guy's speech that he made, but he was very calm. He had the facts in front of him. He made a plea for peace and a very logical plea. And it was all based on fact. And then I saw people on CNN and MSNBC, and they were saying it, when they always bring black people on to say these things. They were saying the worst things about this man, who, by the way, gave a speech for the Republican National Convention. So what? The guy was actually stating the facts here. And one of the pundits, actually, who was black, she said that this man doesn't speak for black people. He's not even black. He's skin folk, but he's not kin folk. In other words, he's got a black face, but that's 100% racist, Barry. And it's disgusting. And the fact that MSNBC would even put that in their newscast
unbelievable.
It's completely irresponsible. This is why they're able to attract so many people to burn the city down. This is dangerous. It's subversive. And we're seeing it happen all over the place. When are we going to stop this from happening? I mean, this is outrageous. And I just got to say, going back to the whole Black Lives Matter things, now that they're actually going after people that are just having dinner on the street, because that's the only place you can have. I saw one where a man and woman are sitting down having dinner, and this young man comes over and just sits down at their table. And the woman was just like, oh, that's enough. This is my table. And she tried to oust him from his seat. And he violently put his seat down. I'm sorry, but if that ever happens to me, I'm probably going to end up in jail. Because I'm not going to let that happen.
I know you wouldn't. They wouldn't pick your table. I've said it before. They wouldn't.
They better not, because I will. I'm not even going to say. They might get bitten.
I understand. Hey, we need to start lightening it up. We're going to have to segue out of here soon. I wanted to ask you, though, I just saw as well, California is banning gasoline cars.
Can you believe that?
I like it. I've been wanting the conversion to happen much quicker. I think it's archaic, and I think it's because of the oil companies that are so embedded into our government.
Well, let me just bring up a couple of things about that. One is that we've had all these wildfires, and there are reasons why we're having wildfires here.
Can't wait to
And
see where you go with
a
this.
lot of it has to do with there are ways to prevent wildfires from happening. There are burn zones that we should be paying attention to, that we should actually be starting burning.
Controlled burning, yeah.
Exactly. But the state government has neglected to do that. And that's actually falls under the responsibility of the governor. So what we had like 103 fires going at one time here. And rather than actually do something and change policy to go after that, he ends up banning our cars and saying that it's causing global warming, which is causing all of these fires. In other words, I'm going to put an executive order out there that makes it look like I'm doing something about these fires, but it's actually doing nothing for these fires. By the way, this is supposed to take effect in 2035, long after this governor is going to be gone. And by the way, it's an executive order, not something that was passed by the legislature, going back to my judge, jury, and executioner kind of thing. We're never going to
get out of that.
The next governor that comes in can erase that immediately because it's not the law. That's not how the governorship is supposed to work.
I understand what you're saying. I brought up a long time ago, it's just something I was thinking about, that I hate gasoline engines. I think the best because I fried my snowblower last year, and it was like the final straw. I've had the gas-powered weed eater, or what do you call it, weed trimmers and stuff, and I hate gasoline engines. They're nothing but problems. For some reason, they're so much better in cars, though, but you get any gas-powered thing and leaf blower or whatever, and it's just, blah, 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 blah. You can't start the damn thing.
Well, let me add two more things to this. One is that we have a crisis here in California. When it gets hot, we don't have enough electricity, and we have brownouts. We have people it's 112 degrees outside and your air conditioning goes out, and you can die in that kind of condition, especially if you're elderly. So we've actually had to borrow power from neighboring states. So now let's outlaw all of the cars that have gasoline power and make them rely on electricity. That doesn't make any sense. Secondly, is that electric cars are about $50,000. The general public here, I think the average age of cars here is something like 10 years old. People can't afford that. Thirdly, how are you? If you do that only in California, what if you want to travel out of state? Is your electric car where are you going to find a place to plug in? There's all kinds of problems with this whole thing, and it's completely devoid of logic. I think that the people should be a part of making these kinds of decisions. And lastly, I'll just say this. You make a decision like this, and you put hundreds of thousands of people out of work. That doesn't make sense to give the governor the power to make that kind of decision when he is under attack because he hasn't made the right decisions to protect the state regarding these fires that are happening all over the state. We had a situation a couple of years ago in Paradise, California, where a fire started and it burnt down the entire town and several people were killed. And that had everything to do with PG&E, our electric company, and the fact that we have 100-year-old plus power lines here, which again is a government agency that was not being maintained, and that falls right into the lap of the governor. These are the things that he should be taking a look at, not getting into the business sector and shutting down business. That is outside of his jurisdiction.
Well, I disagree with a lot of what you said, of course. And I think that, we can concentrate on multiple problems at one time, such as the electrical infrastructure,
which has been neglected.
And agreed. So that needs to be addressed, and at the same time, correcting the problem. I mentioned a long time ago, you didn't like the idea that I wish there would be, how like you can get government credits or something for putting solar panels on your house or however that works. I would like that rental car companies would get some kind of incentive to use electric cars. And because what that does is they, like, I don't know, 2 to 3 years, just like leases, they push those cars. They don't keep cars for very long. They sell them out to the public. And those cars would be much cheaper. And Elon Musk is working on a much more affordable. The competition with electrical vehicles is as such that they are becoming much more affordable. Batteries they're becoming better in every way. This is going to happen. But I think if we simply give an incentive to the rental car industry to go electric, when they sell those cars to average everyday Joe Schmoes like you and I, they're much more affordable now, and it helps that conversion take place. I would like to see that. I would like to get off, oh God, the combustible engine already. I think it's way overdue. I think it's archaic, and I certainly think that our environment would thank us for it, but we need to get the electrical, all of our grid. We know across the United States, we've seen evidence of it, that when the grid gets too stressed, it goes down, and that's a serious problem when it happens.
Well, yeah, let me just weigh in on that real quick. And the reason that I didn't like that idea had to do with the incentives to make that happen, because the only way that the government can give the rental car agencies incentives is through tax dollars. And that means that the only way that they're going to get the car cheaper is if I pay more money out of my tax dollars to provide that for the rental agencies. In other words, I'm the one that buys those cars, and then I've got to go rent them. I got to get it twice. And that doesn't make sense. What I do agree with is that let the market fight that out. Let the electrical car industry put out a competitive product that displaces the gasoline power cars. Let them battle it out, and whoever wins. They can use the environment and say, hey, this is better for the environment. And the more people that go over that way, that's going to lower the price. But if the government gets involved, just like the bailout of the auto industry several years back, it meant that you and I bought cars from the auto industry, but we actually didn't get the cars. We just poured our tax dollars into it, but we didn't actually get a car. That's wrong. And it's actually, if you really look at it, it's like robbery. And our government isn't actually meant to work that way.
Okay, that's great. All right, I got a final story here. It's a very moving story, and boy, we just disagreed all day here today.
I love it.
I do too. And once again, didn't get to the subject matter.
I know. Wait, let me say this right before you get started. Yeah. This is our 24th episode, isn't it?
Oh, geez, I think you're right.
And so we have one more episode for the season. Maybe that's the grand finale.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I was thinking, and I want you to weigh in on this. So when we started the show and we talked about, let's do these seasons and 25 episodes, that's a good number. Because we thought that we would miss a week from vacation or something, but probably 2 weeks out of the year. So this should work out to be our annual, at the end of season 2 should be our annual anniversary, but it's not. I propose that for this season, we actually go to 27 episodes.
Oh, and so that's actually a good idea.
And then we'll go from there on. Season 3 will be 26 episodes. Season 4, 26 episodes from there on. So we do hit an actual year, rather. You think?
You know what? That's actually a pretty good idea. I like that idea.
I know, but didn't you want to end season 2 like in a couple of weeks because it's such a monumental? Like now we gotta wait another couple of weeks.
Well,
I know. We'll do that though.
Yeah. Hey,
because I want it to be a true year.
I was thinking for season 3. Maybe we add some theme music to the beginning of our show or the end of our show. I don't know.
I thought about that too. It's got to be royalty free, which I can come up with. But then that's another thing I got to do. Here's what I was thinking, Merle. Get this. You might like this. I was going to bring it up at the beginning. I forgot. So we could do YouTube Live. We could actually do, like next week, we'd have to experiment with it. We could do our podcast live and we could put it out there. We could advertise it. We're going live today. If you want to bring your questions on in real time, just comment right here on our Facebook page.
That's scary. Yeah.
I think it's kind of
What a
cool.
cool risk. Yeah, I kind of like your idea. These are things we should talk about. I like it though.
Yeah.
I like how you're thinking.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. So I want to put that in your noggin and let you stew on it. All right.
Right on. All right, so you got a story.
Yeah, I might need help with it. This is so moving.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Let me get the Kleenex out.
it's way at the end of the notes. Headline says it all. 89-year-old pizza delivery man. I'll say that again. 89-year-old
Woo.
pizza delivery
Wow.
man gets surprise $12,000 tip. I got the link for you. It's on today.com. It's such a great article. And what I get out of this is the redemption of social media. This is how social media is a good thing. We always talk about how it's so bad. There's a lot of bad aspects, but progress is always inevitable. So here are some young people that did a heck of a lot, something just terrific. This guy's name's hard to say. Derlin Newey, a pizza delivery man for Papa John's Pizza in Roy, Utah, took a 30-hour-a-week job as a pizza delivery guy because his monthly bills weren't getting met with his Social Security.
Wow.
So one of his customers, Carlos Valdez, began recording Newey's deliveries to his family's front door and sharing them on the social media platform TikTok. So I imagine they're pretty young. People on TikTok are generally pretty young.
Yeah.
So I just picture this really nice young guy, Carlos Valdez. And so our 89-year-old pizza delivery man is known for saying, "Hello, are you looking for some pizza?" when he delivers.
We all are.
Newey, the 89-year-old delivery man, soon became a fan favorite on this TikTok channel to Valdez's 53,000 followers.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he's an influencer for sure.
Right.
Sounds like
such on the show.
Yeah, such a good young man. He says, it's insane. Everybody loves him. And adding that the followers commented their frustration that Newey still had to work at 89 years old. So the Valdez family got the idea to crowdsource funds from their followers to help Newey out. And quotes, collectively as a TikTok community, we all came together and were able to raise $12,000 for this amazing person.
Wow.
Along with the local news station, KSL, the Valdez family made a surprise special delivery to Newey at his door with a $12,000 plus check. And that is how social media should work.
I love that. That is really cool. That is really cool.
I admire
what an uplifting message to end on.
And it is. And I just want to remind everybody that especially from now through November 4th and probably thereafter, we're entering the worst news cycle. You brought it up in the beginning that you're probably watching too much news because you're getting depressed. There's so many good things going on out there. But you got to get past the mainstream media, whether it's the right or the left, and you got to find some middle of the road stuff. I like to look at Google News, news.google.com, because you get a variety of all that stuff. And I read those terrifying headlines that they put out there. If I even open them to see the story, I scan it. I try not to. I don't want to preach. I just know that the news cycle right now is, again, something else that I heard this morning, suicides are way up right now. Depression, way up. So, guys, take care of yourselves. Watch our channel more. Go back and see our old stuff. Just a shameless plug. Go to over50startingover.com and sign up for our stuff. Sign up for our mailing list and get this dropped in your email box as it becomes available. You can even like our Facebook page from there, which we share great content on there.
And leave a comment.
Absolutely. Leave us comments and we'll talk about doing that live show.
Right
on.
on.
Could be fun. All right, Merle. I love you, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
Yep.